This is Stalker Clear Sky. We're here on Xbox Series X taking a look at the enhanced collection, which brings this trilogy together with various upgrades over what we had prior. So this is a next gen, or well, a current gen update to the trilogy, which will enhance the experience with new visual settings, features, and options to enjoy these games like never before. When the game first came out, or well, this collection of games first came out about just over a year ago, they were very clear that they were doing next-gen updates, and I was kind of a little bit surprised because I thought the results of the original release were kind of fine. That aside, I definitely am happy with the improvements and think they are offering something kind of neat and just fresh for revisiting this game or possibly playing it for the first time. Depending on, whatever your scenario is, you could very well have been playing Stalker 2 and be looking for something fresh and different to play, and then, hey, you know what? There's these other Stalker games, this trilogy of titles, that kind of tell you a little bit earlier on what happened and kind of, you know, I guess you would say excite you for what that experience has, and just kind of well round out Stalker as a general sort of thing. What's happening? An emission. That's not good. What are we gonna do up here in the tower? Oh, looks like our buddy died. What a shocker. Not Max. Is his name Max Banana? Yes, it is. Alright, so I've got videos for each of the three different games up on the channel, so you can take a look at what each of them has to offer for this upgrade. But the settings and things are basically the same between them. It's just which particular game you like and which one's been, kind of changed, and just seeing what each of them has to offer visually and aesthetically. So this game is quite interesting. This is the second of the original trilogy. Clear Sky is really quite neat because the first game, was sort of welcoming you to the world. It got things set up, and it introduced us to Stalker. This one was quite neat because it really started layering the more detailed factions and settings and conflicts that were kind of going. So that in itself is really quite neat. You'll see that as we get into the open world, because it's really quite fascinating how you see this sort of progression and battle within the area as your troops push forward to take places, other troops push other directions, and seeing all of these factions kind of competing and battling, and yeah, no, it's quite neat to see those systems get developed really for the first time here, and see how those kind of impact the way you play the game and the way other people play the game, which is quite exciting and interesting. So yeah, you start out in this base. There's some kind of weird medical thing or whatever going on with you, and then you're recruited and thrown into the action. Unstable zones have appeared. A second incident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant has reshaped the zone once more, and you're just kind of thrown into the mix of it, and you're going to have to figure out your place in all of this and just how you interact with things and how you change stuff. That is a fatal stabbing right there, because I don't think I have a bandage, and I believe my character would bleed out before I would actually get to an area that it would matter. Because this game is actually quite brutal and quite difficult, and, I recommend constantly saving. And I recommend making sure, difficulty-wise, you kind of get, like, it's not necessarily easier to go with easier stuff, but they've kind of balanced things, and it's kind of like a one-to-one at damage and stuff, and it's a whole system for how difficulties work in this. But yeah, anyways, I digress. It's a pretty brutal game, and make sure you are saving frequently, otherwise you're going to lose a lot of progress, so just keep that in mind. We've been playing on the performance setting for the game, so this is kind of my preferred way to go about playing this game, would be to do this on performance. So this is a dynamic 4K at 60 FPS. And there's 4 different modes, and then there's different visual settings on top of those modes. So, pick and choose how you want to go about it. But we're going to change it up. We're going to go to Ultra Performance. So Ultra Performance is dropping the resolution 1440p at 120 FPS. It is highly recommended that you play this with VRR enabled, so variable refresh rate, to prevent the screen tearing that you are seeing a bit on the screen when playing on this particular mode. Why did I not create a manual save earlier? Because I'm getting attacked by this creature and the bad guys? You've got to be kidding me. Well, I mean, from our point of view, they're bad, you know. Like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Anyways. Yeah, game over. That's what I deserve for getting shot in the back by a giant bear thing. So anyways, like I said, 1440p, 120 FPS. I think of high frame rates as being something that's more meant for competitive shooter games, but it is kind of cool getting on console a single-player experience that runs at a higher frame rate. I think that is quite spectacular that that exists, and that we can enjoy that here. So it is something that if you have a 120 Hz display, because you need a 120 Hz display to enjoy it, I would recommend giving it a whirl, seeing if you like it, and, you know, checking it out. And kind of sweet to fluidly run around really fast and absolutely destroy your opponents as you make your way through the wasteland and stuff like that. So kind of a nice mode, and it seems like it definitely does still screen tear here, and a little less screen tearing than the, I guess you would say, first game, which is kind of funny. But yeah, this is kind of this mode. You sacrifice a bit of resolution, but you know, you get super high frame rate. Really up to you and your preferences for what you like. Then we have not gamma, quality mode. So quality mode is a native 4K, and it's 30 FPS. I don't like how this plays in this game on any of the settings. It just doesn't feel very good for me. Like, I do not like how this mode plays, but, you know, it exists if you want to kind of max things out. My theory is this is kind of like for the next generation, like if there is another Xbox down the road, this would be a mode that you would just kind of uncap, and you would be getting a higher, you know, high resolution, high frame rate. That is kind of my assumption, but I don't know for sure. So, yeah, this mode exists as is. I don't really recommend it at all, but it is a mode that you can check out if you want to kind of max out the visuals and get a full, you know, look of the game's feature sets. Then we have motion blur. No, we have balanced mode. So balanced mode is a mix between performance and quality mode. So for balanced mode, the idea is you get a high visual fidelity, but you also get a little bit better fluidity. So 30 FPS really doesn't feel great. 40 FPS actually feels pretty good. So this is a new mode for this generation of gaming, basically, as far as consoles go. You need a 120 Hz display to take advantage of it, and it's just this really nice middle ground between high frames and quality. So yeah, quality mode with some better frames. It feels, I think you can kind of see this, it just feels a lot smoother to play a 40 FPS targeting mode. And I do greatly appreciate that this sort of thing exists. So I would say, you know, maybe give it a whirl if you got this available to you. But like I said, I think performance mode on this is easily the mode I would recommend playing. I don't think you'll have any problems with it. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say to go with. But I wanted to showcase each of the different modes, so you know what each of them has to offer. You're still alive? You've got to be kidding me. And so you get an idea what this is like across all the experiences. Could you please perish? I honestly cannot believe that guy took so many shots. Yeah, sure, you'll pay me back. They never do. Never pays to put all the effort in on these guys. Okay, I don't need 2 shotguns. Ugh. I don't even know how this keeps happening. So we're going to go back to performance mode, because that's better for me. Obviously, there's motion blur, gamma, sound settings, game settings, control settings, and it's like it keeps going to mouse and keyboard, but like I don't know why. Like we're obviously on the controller. It just seems to be a thing on the Xbox side of things. Your saves, everything like that, they all carry over. You know, you're still working on the achievement list as you were before. Pretty straightforward experience. It's just a nice upgraded quality of life setup for this game that I think you will appreciate and like. That's kind of the big thing here is the experience, you know, just better than it was before, which what more could you really ask for? Well, there actually is more. So we've got mod support with mod.io, so you can now do mods. I'm hoping to do a mod video in the future, so stay tuned for that sort of a thing. I don't know which ones we'll cover or how that will be done, but that is a goal of mine to do, so stay tuned. Yeah, so should we go do that one over here, or should we go and do this area? No, I think we're gonna punch right up to the northeastern farm, aren't we? Yeah, alright, let's do it. Yeah, so we got mod support, which is awesome. Super cool to have that available here. Definitely love that that is an option for us to enjoy. Okay, let's talk more about the improvements here visually. So the enhancement of the trilogy here gives us a bunch of visual setting upgrades. So we've got God rays, screen space reflections, and global illumination. These are things that greatly enhance the visuals of the world, the aesthetic of it. And yes, it does look better than it did. It is a nice improvement. I think you'll be happy with it. There's upscaled textures and more 3D detailed models for NPCs, weapons, and the environment. I think that was quite noticeable when we were going to interact with the different characters that we've seen recently. I do believe you should be kind of being like, oh yeah, I know the character models look better and stuff, and yeah, I think most people will agree with me. Yes, they do. Then we have shaders, enhanced water shaders, and upgraded skyboxes. I think that should have been maybe one of the first things you noticed, aside from shimmering light coming through certain areas, is the skybox looks really, really good in this. They definitely did some nice improvements to that. I think you will be very, very pleased with the skybox. And then the 4K cinematics. So the game has some pre-rendered cinematics. Those are now like big 4K pre-rendered cinematics. They look great. You know, obviously for pre-rendered. Big quality life bump up for those ones for sure. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here from a visual standpoint and an upgrade standpoint perspective. They took the games that released just over a little bit a year ago, a little over a year ago. Well, I mean, like, the games obviously came back way back, like, they released way back in the day, right? It was more like the debut of them from a modern console's perspective was what happened. And I will say, yeah, I'm very, very happy with this. It's kind of nice to have an excuse to come back and revisit this once again. It's like, I can't believe it's been over a year. I guess this is my big thing. It's yeah, it's just really genuinely hard to believe time is flowing by so fast. And I mean, we knew this was coming. What? Hazardous radiation? From where? What? What are you talking about? What hazardous radiation? It's like, I knew this was coming, so it wasn't like the biggest shock in the world for me to be like, oh, well, here it is, finally. I actually thought it would come sooner. So I guess the surprise is that it actually took this long. But alas, here we are, battling away in Stalker, and enjoying this one quite a bit. The Clear Sky is definitely, to me, quite interesting, because you just get to see the formation of all these really interesting, like genuinely interesting settings. And just these complex faction dynamics as these different, you know, kind of areas face off and you are amidst the middle of them. trying to survive, trying to, you know, take out enemies and live and not die and scavenge and find stuff. And then it's just neat kind of how the story sort of builds up, if that makes sense, how you interact with these characters and how your setup kind of goes. And it was really cool too, like, kind of seeing how this stuff builds and the end results of it. If you go and play Stalker 2 as well, I think you will find it to be a very rewarding overall journey across your Stalker games. Like, this is... It's an actually like, a very impressive series. Like, this is a trilogy of games, right? We had first one, Shadow over Chernobyl, and then this one, and then Call of Pripyat. And, you know, they all came together for a pretty satisfying time. And now they're a trilogy, and now they've got a sequel too, which in itself is quite surprising. So what exactly killed me last time? Did somebody have, like... You know, was there some kind of contaminated thing here? I was just really curious as to, like, why exactly I just perished randomly for no reason. You know, I was living my best life, and then I just fell over and died. Was I, like, on the fire? Yeah, I don't really get that. Is this the final place, or is this the final place? I don't know, there's like a final area you're supposed to take, and then you kind of push forward, and the swamp area is just the starting area, and then you move on. So it's just mostly neat to see the zone kind of evolve in the way that it does within this entry of the series. You know, seeing these hostilities build up, and you trying to, like, investigate these growing problems, these catalysms, and then, you know, if you go and play Stalker 2 after this one, you'll be like, oh yeah, neat, yeah, because it all kind of plays together, it all kind of connects, and yeah, you just kind of find yourself trying to survive alongside all of it. There's definitely a lot of stuff, and you know, again, like, difficulty-wise and stuff like that, just be prepared to die a lot. Make sure you're doing your saves. You know, it's a survival game, but also a shooter, and it's just kind of a neat series. Like, a genuinely fascinating franchise that I think is worth diving into and playing. And this nice little upgrade was thoroughly, you know, appreciated, at least on my end. It's kind of nice to see this sort of a thing. And, you know, I was fine with what we had prior to, but I definitely do think this takes things further in a nice way that the fans are gonna like, and especially those on consoles. You know, if you were partially working through it, maybe you're looking for a revisit, or, you know, again, a new first-time person in the series being like, oh yeah, I love Stalker 2 and stuff, let's see what the origins of these things are. And it just kind of makes it so that this collection here is enhanced and just ready to go for those that are going to be witnessing it finally. And I think that in itself is quite special. Where are you hiding? Oh, you're around that thing. And it, like, honestly, like, a lot of this stuff just holds up pretty well. Oh no, where are you guys coming from? And, you know, it's still got that level of, like, danger and excitement as you try to survive and take out all the threats everywhere. Like, it's very unforgiving, and it's very unique in its setup. And Clear Sky in itself is kind of just, like, the vibe of this game, to me, is really, really quite interesting. Just because it feels in line with the other game. And you gotta remember, these came out, like, super close, and it's just so cool to see these mechanics kind of evolve so fast, because they were obviously like, okay, we got our first game, this is neat, people like this, how do we take this further? And obviously their ideas for taking it further were kind of awesome. And the whole, you know, live a life type thing and that kind of getting built up, I think that in itself is awesome and spectacular. You just kind of get to see it really building in a full momentum in this one, and the vibe and the setting of it. I know it's Clear Sky, but, you know, it gets rainy, and yeah, it's got a neat set of challenges to it behind this one, and I think you'll have fun exploring and discovering those, or revisiting it, or however you're engaging with this. And yeah, like I said, I've covered the rest of the series. It'll all be available here, so you get an idea of these upgrades. And Hopefully you appreciate these improvements, and performance mode is what I recommend.